There's a concern in Australia, we shifted tack obviously on submarines, that we might have a looming capability gap. Do you think the US should be willing, if something is needed, to fast track to help with capability, or have US submarines based in Australia?
Well, I think that we will do everything that is necessary to ultimately support Australia as we move towards the realization of their own capabilities. You know, there is a reason that in so many challenges in the world, as the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, as my dear friend, senior member of the Appropriations Committee, chose to come to Australia, is because we believe this is the epicenter of the global challenge that we have, which is China. And so while, yes, we're all focused on Ukraine and Russia, we understand the importance of this relationship. We understand that this is the epicenter of where the future lies in terms of what type of world we want to live in. So yes, we will do whatever is necessary to help Australia.
What about other ties? Because is it accurate that New Zealand ultimately didn't want this delegation to travel to that country?
No, I think it's a COVID problem. I didn't take it that way. So Senator Menendez is a Democrat and I'm a Republican, and I would just say that China and Russia have done more to unite the Republican and Democratic Party than anything we've done for ourselves. You know, there's two ways to live, and Bob's got a good way of explaining, and I'll let him explain to you. It's not a choice between the United States or China. It's the war you want to live in, and he describes that pretty well. I feel comfortable in Australia. I wouldn't mind living here. I think I'd be lucky to be able to live in a place that's growing with freedom. I wouldn't want to live in communist China. And communist China is using every lever it can to browbeat Australia. You decided to stand up to the Chinese Huawei system, which is basically, if you bought it, China would know everything about you, is our theory of the case. And you've paid a heavy price for standing up to China. And what I want to do is make sure that after this visit, you understand that we appreciate what you've done, and we're more with you than ever. But Bob can explain, I think, as well as anybody in the United States Senate, the choice that people in the region and the world are going to make between China and the rest of us.
I'll let you jump off on that, Senator Menendez, but I guess it brings me to as well the Solomon Islands and this security deal between the Solomon Islands and China. We've got the Solomon Islands Prime Minister Sogavare saying it won't mean military bases, but haven't we seen that play out before?
Well, that's why President Biden sent his national security advisor for this region to have a conversation in the Solomon Islands, because I think it is both in the Solomon Islands' interest, Australia's interest, the United States, to ensure that there is not a Chinese base there, and to make sure that it is understood what it means to all of us if that were the pathway forward. I take the word of its leader that says that's not the case. But, you know, at the end of the day, just to use your question, to go to Lindsey's point, we do not seek conflict with China. We actually invited China into the international order in the expectations that it would ultimately engage in the international order in a way that would not create a Jeffersonian democracy, but would ultimately play by the rules of international engagement. China accepted the invitation, but they haven't played by the rules of international engagement. And so the question is not a question of choose the United States or Australia or China. The question is, what type of world do you want to live in? Do you want to live in a world that ultimately you are free to choose those who govern you? You are free to choose to worship as you that make an investment as a company. You have a reasonable expectation that it won't be perverse, that you ultimately have a set of level playing field? Or do you want to live in a world where ultimately you won't choose who governs you? You won't ultimately have a free economy. You won't ultimately be able to decide whether the rules of engagement are free and open, but actually coercive, as China is, as it's been to Australia when Australia stood up for its own sovereign interests. And so that's the choice that we ask people to make, not between the United States and China, right, but between what type of world you want to live in.
So if that's the choice for the Solomon Islands, you'll be putting that. Do you think the deal itself can be stopped, or are you just hoping to stop the military base happening?
Well, certainly the most significant interest is to ensure the military base doesn't take place. That is a security strategic challenge for all of us. But it is my hope that there's a more broader, deeper understanding that, China at the end of the day will be your owner and minder. That's what their ultimate goal is. And that they've shown that in Africa and other parts of the world where it seems like they're coming in with good intentions. And then their coercive economic policies, their coercive practices ultimately put you at being owned by China. I don't think anyone wants to be owned by China.